you, David. After 60 years in Winnipeg Stadium, a new era in Bomber football begins tonight with the grand opening of Investors Group Field, and the curtain rises on the 2013 CFL season. What a stage for the Alouettes and the Blue Bombers from the Manitoba capital.
And Chris, it's a little bit of role reversal when it comes to the head coaching situations of these two teams. The Bombers, 4 different head coaches in the last 5 years. Tim Burke is returning for his second year as the Bombers head coach. The Montreal Alouettes, who have known just one coach, Mark Trestman, the last 5 years, get Dan Hawkins making not only his CFL coaching debut, but his professional football coaching debut here tonight.
Atmosphere here is a lot like a Grey Cup. That's not till November 24th. At Mosaic in Regina, but we're ready to start the journey. Justin Pillardi's got it on the tee. There's Noel Devine, along with rookie Tyron Carrier back, and the 2013 season underway at Investors Group Field. It's Devine across the 30, trying to get to the corner, and Demond Washington will bring him down at the 41-yard line. Our starters to watch are brought to you by Napa Auto Parts, where custom advice comes standard.
Well, when the Montreal Alouettes take to the field, you've always got to watch Anthony Calvillo. Season high in 2012, 443 yards against Winnipeg. You know all about the slots. Green and Richardson from Montreal. Keep an eye on Brandon London, 500-plus yard receiving games in 12 games played. And the O-line, of course, anchored by the perennial all-star guard, Scott Flory.
We know the building looks good. Sounds pretty good, too. Calvillo, and that pass knocked down. Tight coverage provided, and there's Alex Zuber on the scene.
This Winnipeg Blue Bomber defense keyed up off the start. Enoch Mwamba at middle linebacker has become a game changer. First overall pick in 2011. Alex Hall, you heard the boys talk about him. 9 sacks, led the team in 2012. All eyes on Demond Washington at boundary halfback, where he replaces Eastern All-Star Jonathan Hefty.
2nd and 10, short drop pressure, dumped off, and Jennings dropped the ball, and Calvillo took a heavy hit as the Bombers are fired up in their new home.
Well, the Bombers are going to need to be able to get pressure with those guys up front and take a little bit of pressure off the fellas on the back end. Pressure here coming from the bottom of your screen. That's Kenny Maynard, number 54. He becomes a full-time player with Jason Vega now in the New England Patriots camp.
So a 2 and out for Montreal. Sean White to kick it away. Javon Johnson, the veteran, will return punts for the Bombers. And out across the 30 to the 33-yard line. Marc-Olivier Ouellette takes down Johnson after a 46-yard punt, and Buck Pierce leads the Bombers out offensively.
Well, the story here in Winnipeg, as the season opens exactly as it has been all offseason, Buck Pierce needs to stay healthy. Just 7 starts in 2012. One of the keys is the guy on the left, running back Chad Simpson, needs to produce on the ground, as he did last year. And the guy on the right, Corey Watson, is going to be a key in their pass protection schemes from his slot back position.
Alex Brink, Joey Elliott are gone. Justin Goltz, the backup. And Buck Pierce goes to work, and he's going to look for the outside, and it's intercepted. Jeff Tisdale, the newcomer, on the corner with the interception, as Pierce was trying to hook up with Clarence Denmark.
And this is exactly the kind of thing that can't happen, Chris, for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. In trying to protect Buck Pierce, you're going to see they're keeping 7 guys in. They've got 2 backs. You're talking max protection. Buck Pierce has got time to throw the ball. He needs to be accurate with it. You've got Jeff Tisdale working one-on-one on the outside as he comes over from the Hamilton Tiger Cats. This is a veteran DB in his 6th year. 17 career interceptions, make it 18 now to kick off the 2013 season.
Bombers had a league worst 53 turnovers last year. Turn it over on their first offensive play of the season. Alouettes with the ball, and here's Devine in motion, and he has some room down inside the 30-yard line on that end around.
And various slot back and receiver sweeps should be a staple in the Montreal Alouettes offense this year. Noel Devine is a guy whose contributions were very limited last season. You're going to see Devine come in motion across your screen as he takes that handoff from Calvillo. Now this is a guy, a great kick returner, typically the kind of guy you want to get in a little bit of space with exactly that kind of creative play calling.
11 for Devine and a first down. S.J. Green hit the line in a full gallop, and he's got it down inside the 5-yard line. S.J. Green, who led the league in receiving until he was injured last season, with a big catch to put the Alouettes in scoring position.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. Anthony Calvillo gets a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, but he's still got those same receivers. Quick drop, perfect timing route, up high to the big receiver where only S.J. Green can go and get it.
61 catches on the year last year, led the CFL in yards per game with 79.4. First and goal. The pitch to Chris Jennings, trying to get to the corner, touchdown! And just like that, the Alouettes capitalize on that Bomber turnover.
A couple big plays, quickly quiet the crowd here at Investors Group Field. Montreal does a nice job here, stretching the field laterally. They develop a couple extra gaps by getting the receivers out front, take advantage of having number 19, S.J. Green, who might be the best blocking receiver in the Canadian Football League. You don't mind having him as the lead guy on that short yardage play.
Three plays for the touchdown. The big play, the 26-yarder to Green, White the extra point, and the Alouettes strike first in 2013. So Chris Jennings will be the answer to a trivia question, the first ever touchdown at Investors Group Field.
And nicely executed by the Owls. They get a little misdirection after setting up that sweep with Devine. They create a couple of extra gaps on the front side, getting the receivers, Richardson and Green, out there. Nice job coming around by Josh Burt. Great job by S.J. Green staying on his man. Chris Jennings in standing up.
So Will Ford, Javon Johnson dropped deep. Ball fell off the tee, so they'll reset. All the emotion pent up, and the interception by Buck Pierce quiets the crowd and kick-started the Alouettes. See if Winnipeg can get the momentum back. Here's Ford, who had a terrific training camp. He's explosive. And he's angled out just beyond the 30-yard line.
John Bowman continues to be one of the leaders of this Montreal Alouette defense. They'll count on him in a traditional 4-3 to provide some pressure on the quarterback. The rookie number 3 overall pick, Mike Edom from University of Calgary, starts at free safety. And of course, in the middle of everything, Shea Emery, double award finalist last year, including the top East Division defensive player in 2012.
Noel Thorpe back in the Canadian Football League, the defensive coordinator for the Alouettes. Double tight end set, play action, and underneath it goes Terrence Edwards, the veteran Blue Bombers receiver, with the catch. Number 8 in the league last year with 70 grabs.
We touched off the top, Chris, on the importance for these Winnipeg Blue Bombers of keeping Buck Pierce upright. Look for a lot of quick passes from the Bomber quarterback. Look for them to rely on that run game.
2nd and 7, the handoff to Chad Simpson, and he'll be stopped short of the first down. Initial contact made by the new Sam linebacker, Kyrese Hebert, the former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, who moves up in that Alouette defense. And there's Gary Croton, the architect of the Bombers' revamped offense.
And for Gary, second year as the Bombers' offensive coordinator last year, certainly a learning experience for him. One of the things that he suggested in terms of having developed as a Canadian Football League coach after years in the U.S. in 2012, obviously scheming how to protect his quarterback a little bit better, how to move the game, make things go quicker offensively.
Renaud kicks it. Here's Tyrone Carrier with a big return. Alouettes have not had a punt return touchdown in 3 years. They're going to get one here. Tyrone Carrier, touchdown, 77 yards.
Well, Chris, one of the big stars of the preseason we saw Isaiah Sweeney, a speedster from the University of Houston. Yeah, Tyrone Carrier ran on the same college 4x1 champion relay team. You see the speed. I've heard this guy compared to former Montreal Alouette Thomas Haskins. You see exactly why. A versatile weapon, but they give him a crack, and away he goes. Great wheels for this diminutive return man.
And 7 touchdown returns in the NCAA to tie the all-time record. And he has a touchdown here, and Dan Hawkins' start is a good one for the Owls. The CFL on TSN is brought to you by Nissan. Innovation that excites. And Tyrone Carrier providing plenty of excitement. And a co-record holder in the NCAA at Houston with 7, and off to a terrific start here.
He sure is, adding some speed to that Montreal Alouette lineup, injecting instant life in a return game that, as you suggested, CC, hasn't necessarily been a strength for the Alouettes in recent years.
Larry Taylor, the last punt return touchdown actually in mid-August of 2009, so almost 4 years since the last punt return touchdown by the Alouettes.
And here's the latest to add to the Tyrone Carrier highlight reel. What he does very well on this return, a lot of times with speed guys, they want to immediately get to the outside on the big Canadian field, try and outrun people. Carrier takes it out the field first. He gets those covermen back on their heels, and then that allows them to burst to the outside. The AC loves anytime they can put points on the board without him having to work too hard.
Well, now the Bombers have their work cut out for them. Down by a pair of early touchdowns. Pierce dropped back, airs it out, looking for Denmark, and Denmark's got it! This time he got past Jeff Tisdale, and the Bombers finally have something going. 45 yards to Clarence Denmark.
This is exactly what the doctor ordered for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Jeff Tisdale gets up in that tight coverage, but he doesn't get hands on the receiver. Denmark gets a clean release, which is what allows him to get in behind. Perfect throw from Buck Pierce. Good protection as Montreal only rushed 5 on the play.
First down, quick pump, and looking for Denmark again. He got bumped by Tisdale, and it's ruled incomplete.
And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers try to go right back to the well, getting that single matchup on the outside. Head coach Tim Burke talked yesterday about how Clarence Denmark likes it better as an outside receiver. He likes to be on the line. He actually seems to get a better get-off from a standing start than he did using the waggle at the slot position the past couple of years.
Working against one of the 2 new corners for the Alouettes. Veteran Byron Parker is the other. 2nd and 10. Flag down, Hebert with pressure, and out in the flat, wide open. It's Chad Simpson. Looks like it's coming back. Well, let's see what the flag is all about. It looked like the Bombers may have been offside. Now Bradbury's in charge, and the Bombers are marching backwards.
Offside, Winnipeg, number 82. 5-yard penalty, remains 2nd down.
The 9-year veteran, Terrence Edwards, ahead of the snap.
And Terrence Edwards tried to slow it up from that left slot position, but clearly over the line before the ball is up. Takes away a big play for the Bombers.
So 2nd and 15. Back at the 37. Here comes the heat. Underneath, the catch is made. There's Corey Watson. And Watson unable to get to the first down chain as they bear in on the tackle. And it will bring on the field goal unit for the Bombers. And Tim Burke as Justin Pillardi will check in.
An important kick clearly here for Justin Pillardi as the Bombers started to get a little bit of momentum back. An unfortunate penalty takes away a big play, takes them out of touchdown range. Nonetheless, the Bombers showing a little bit of resilience after an early storm from Dan Hawkins' Alouettes.
Different wind conditions here, and Pillardi said that it swirls here in the new stadium, and the wind as tough as he's seen it. since arriving, but he's able to put it through. And the Bombers on the board off the toe of Pilardi.
Think about the name on the front. Think about the brand of which many of you helped to establish. The owner, Jim Pop, the coaches, the players, everybody that's come before you. Let's go out and have a great time. Let's get after it. Let's start fast. Let's finish strong. Play hard. Play smart. And let's have some fun.
First pre-game speech for Dan Hawkins, and the message "start fast" was certainly adhered to.
Yeah, no question. The Montreal Alouettes bought into that. I'll tell you, people get to know Dan Hawkins over the course of this year, but for those of us who have met him, that was actually calm for him.
He is a character. Here's Devine, and he was cut down very quickly. Good downfield covered by the Bombers, led by Freddie Harris. He is the anti-Mark Trestman in a lot of ways, although he told us yesterday when you peel the onion, the philosophy of the coaches are the same, and he was with Mark Trestman last year during the Alouette training camp.
Yeah, essentially kind of a consulting role, and it was a great introduction for him to the Canadian game, a guy who's got a great offensive background. He looks forward to utilizing all the toys at his disposal here in Montreal.
Here's Calvillo swinging it out. Devine with another burst and a first down for the Alouettes, and we have seen a different look to this Alouette offense very early on.
Yeah, we sure have. The running backs were always a part of the passing game for the Montreal Alouettes. Brandon Whitaker, obviously a huge part of that. He's out of the lineup with injury. But Noel Devine involved a different element here. They're trying to get him to the outside more, where Whitaker was more of an outlet, check down routes over the middle, quick flat routes and that sort of thing. But Noel Devine, a guy who was with this team last year, already playing a bigger role than he did through the entire 2012 season.
There's the new offensive coordinator, Mike Miller, a 13-yard pickup for Devine. Number 13, slinging it out, and Arlen Bruce has his first catch as a Montreal Alouette. He started his career with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and now Bruce, just another weapon for the Owls.
Yeah, Jamel Richardson, S.J. Green, Brandon London. Those guys weren't enough offensively. This team went out and picked up Arlen Bruce from the BC Lions in the offseason, adding yet another weapon. Deep threat, still a good speed guy here in the Canadian Football League. And whatever else you say about Arlen Bruce, always a guy who's been a professional wherever he's been.
12-yard pickup now within 52 of becoming number 11 all time. Chris Jennings trying to get to the edge and can't turn the corner. There's that rangy defensive end, Alex Hall, on the scene for the Bombers.
And Alex Hall is going to have to be a leader on this defensive line for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this season. They're a team that's always had a lot of depth at the defensive end position. They've managed to keep guys fresh, rolling players through. But when you look at the pass rushers they've lost over the last few years, Philip Hunt 2 years ago, Odell Willis last year, Jason Vega this year, not quite the same depth. So it really means that Alex Hall, Kenny Maynard, those guys are going to have to step up in a big way.
Second and a little more than 10. Pressure on, and they get to the quarterback. And down goes Calvillo. J.T. Gilmore from his defensive tackle position led a group that swarmed Anthony Calvillo.
J.T. Gilmore's number 3 in this 4-man rush, and this is key for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You heard Paul LaPolice talk about the smaller guys on the back end for Winnipeg. You don't necessarily want to be undermanned in terms of coverage matching up against Montreal. If you can get pressure with 4, you can get a little help for the guys in the secondary.
It's like Brian Turner will get credit for the sack. Javon Johnson on the return, and he was slowed up by Mike Edom, the rookie safety, also on punt cover after a 36-yard kick. Over 33,000, a full house on this historic night, and with more on the new stadium, here's Sarah Orlesky.
Well, Chris, it's no surprise that Bombers players rave about this stadium and the facilities that they have here. Players tell me that you see guys in the weight room you never saw necessarily before. They're spending a lot more time here. But it isn't just Winnipeg players that are going on about it. So too are Alouettes players and staff members, with one of the players joking to me that this is a better visitors room than perhaps what they have at their home field. And Tim Burke, when I asked him about just how spacious this visitors room was, he said that perhaps he wishes he had been involved in the planning of it. Maybe he would have changed a few things.
Here's a handoff to Chad Simpson. Not much there for him.
And I'll tell you, Chris, as impressive as the Bombers locker room is, the CFL visitors room, I had a chance to take a tour to the University of Manitoba Bisons. I'll tell you, they have what may be the most phenomenal facilities in the CIS now. Absolutely outstanding. They're taking care of minor football here. They've even got rooms for high school football to be played in this stadium.
Simpson stopped for a loss, a 2nd and 11. There's pressure on Pierce, and he'll roll out, deliver the pass, and then close to a first down. Terrence Edwards. Let's see where they spot the football. Gerald Brown in there advising on the spot, and looks like this will require a measurement.
One of the keys, as you saw Buck Pierce get to the outside on that play. Buck Pierce, when he does get to the perimeter this year, is kind of being reminded and pressured a little bit more. You're out there to throw the ball. You're not necessarily out there to tuck it and run.
You heard Matt Dunnigan's comments before the game, and it's at least a yard short and a little bit more about the fact that Buck is so lean this year. He's lost between 20 and 30 pounds, and I know Matt Dunnigan was surprised. We were a little bit too.
You always think when guys are trying to protect against injury, you think in terms of gaining weight, being bigger and stronger, but Buck Pierce dropping a little bit weight, maybe adding a little bit in the way of quickness.
And Buck with limited reps in the preseason. Played in only the first game and for just 8 snaps. So there might still be a little rust on him as the punt team comes on, and he'll check with Gary Croughton upstairs. Good kick by Renault. Carrier driven back. Inside his 20. Now looks upfield, and not this time. Not with Enoch Mwamba bringing him down for a 3-yard loss.
Not only the starting middle linebacker, but the team leader in special teams tackles a year ago. Now, Chris, obviously Anthony Calvillo is the face of this Montreal Alouettes franchise, but you really realize what kind of company he's in when you look at this board. No quarterback, other than the great Ron Lancaster, has had more opening day starts with the same team than Anthony Calvillo. Makes his 14th straight season opener here with the Alouettes.
20th year for Calvillo, 271st start. And back to work, and slings that away with the heat provided from Kenny Maynard.
Well, it looked as if initially, by how easily the right side of the offensive line let their guys go on this play, as if the Alouettes were maybe trying to set up a screen. But you can clearly see, not just from the reaction of Calvillo throwing the ball away, but also from the 2 linemen, Scott Corey and Jeff Parrott. There's just a miscommunication here. They slid to the inside and let the 2 guys go on that side of the field. Calvillo had no choice but to just throw it away.
2nd and 10. Low shotgun snap, throw for Richardson behind him, and that ball's picked off on the ricochet. Devon Washington, and Washington still going down to the 5. Tackle made by the center, Luke Brodeur-Jourdain, but 49 on the return on a strange ricochet to Washington.
Well, we might call this one an Investors Group field bounce. Ball looked like it was just going to fall incomplete. As Calvillo missed the throw to Richardson, but it gets tipped off the defender's foot. Brandon Stewart, and up into the air. Montrot Washington, right place, right time. Puts the Bombers in great field position.
So now 1st and goal, and it's somebody in the Bombers jump. Jay Emery and company making contact. There's the UBC product. And
Offside. Montreal, number 41. Half the distance to goal, still first down.
And it was Emery without any movement from that Bomber offensive line.
Take another quick look back at the interception. You watch the foot of number 8, Brandon Stewart, coming from the left side of your screen. Exactly as he planned it.
Yeah, a little Lionel Messi.
Great hang time on that kick.
So the Bombers can get right back in it here. Handoff, Chad Simpson, left side. And he is up in it. Chip Cox is there. Pursuit from Tisdale. And not able to turn it in.
Well, there aren't a whole lot of linebackers anywhere who run faster than Chip Cox. Number 11, right in the middle of your screen. Watch the flow here. And away he goes, just flat out outruns the offensive lineman. Chris Greaves ducks that inside shoulder to make the turn. Steps up and makes the play.
Bombers feel that Chad Simpson can challenge for the rushing title this year if he can stay healthy. Snuffed on that play, so second and goal. Pierce on a roll. Emery in pursuit. Throwback. Touchdown. The first touchdown by a Bomber on their new home field is Chris Matthews. And an IGF lead.
Major foul, roughing the passer. Montreal, number 11.
Buck Pierce hung in there and hung in there. He had a chance to throw this football on the front side to a wide open Terrence Edwards in the flat, but he knows he's got Chris Matthews as his primary guy going back the other way. A little bit of a rub. Hangs in, takes a hit to make a play.
Tack on a roughing the passer against Chip Cox. They weren't sure Chris Matthews was going to be ready. Twisted an ankle in practice yesterday. Tim Burke didn't think he'd be able to go, but Matthews makes an impact here in the opening quarter. And the Bombers get back in the football game after a shaky start.
Bombers competing in a big way. Watch the eyes of Buck Pierce. He looks front side. He knows he's got the flow. Great body control to twist and throw that one back the other way.
I think they called 11 Chip Cox, but it looks like it's 41 Shea Emery that draws the penalty.
This was a topic of conversation during the offseason when the Bombers released their two primary backups from a year ago, Alex Brink, Joey Elliott, the guys who threw 80% of their passes last year. They left themselves without much experience behind Buck Pierce. And the question is it going to lead to defensive players targeting Buck Pierce a little bit more? Frankly, were they already targeting a guy who's got a long injury history?
Those two backups from last year you mentioned, 3,500 yards of passing. Buck Pearson, Justin Goltz with under 1,000 yards passing last year. Well, Divine on the return. And he is taken down at the 28 as Rennie Stefan, who had a terrific camp last year and then was injured in the season opening game, makes the tackle. Mwamba there as well. And the game is on here in the late stages of this opening quarter.
Great rebound effect for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here, who looked like they were in a whole lot of trouble early. Quick interception by Jeff Tisdale led to a touchdown. Punt return touchdown from Tyron Carrier. The Bombers storming back with 10 points here to get right back in the ballgame.
There's that inside handoff. Divine gets to the edge. Good contact there by Brandon Stewart. Then Divine knocked out at the 35-yard line. So he's been a big part of this new look Alouette team.
Oh, he sure has. And speaking of new look, many changes over the course of the offseason. Some significant players leaving. Rod Davis, Kenny Ingram, big part of that defense last year. Seth Williams, Ryan Bratton, regular starters for this team. Then come Arlen Bruce, Idro Kowali, Byron Parker, Jeff Tisdale, all veteran guys. And the rookie, Mike Edom, a rarity in Montreal. A draftee stepping right into the starting lineup.
6 for Divine, 2nd and 4. Quick hitter, and it's off Richardson. Pass behind him, off his hip, incomplete. Mel Richardson, who had a disappointing 2012 after great expectations in what was an MOP caliber season in 2011.
Yeah, now it seems like he's going through some timing issues. Perhaps both he and Calvillo, two guys who always seem to be on exactly the same page as far as where the ball was going to be thrown. We've seen a couple just off the mark. Those two struggling to connect in the early going here with their new offense.
Sean White, Javon Johnson drops it and has to eat it. Back at the 25 and flags fly. Johnson, who lobbied Greg Dickinson as soon as the new special teams man was hired to get back to punt returns, usually pretty reliable back there.
And a big part of the reason why he's back there a little bit more often. Demond Washington had some trouble with ball security last season. Washington 8 fumbles, losing 5 of them last year as the Bombers' primary kick returner.
Had a good chat with Javon yesterday, ran a DB camp in his hometown of Erie, Pennsylvania during the off-season, and one of the 100 or so youngsters.
During the return, illegal block, Winnipeg, number 21. Also, major foul, horse collar tackle, Montreal 34. 5-yard difference, first down.
So Suber and Hebert, the culprits for either team. The horse collar by Kairis Hebert.
Number 34, Hebert, terrific linebacker, terrific special teamer. See the right hand grabbing the collar as Javon Johnson went down.
And more movement pre-snap. Just to finish the Johnson story, the youngster from Winnipeg, 13-year-old, went down to the camp, and Javon said, looked pretty good.
Offside, Montreal, number 39. 5-yard penalty, Maine's first down.
This time it's veteran Gerald Brown who jumps the gun, so a couple of offsides from that Alouette defense in this opening quarter.
Missed opportunity there for the Alouettes. When you see the DB, the halfback, Gerald Brown, trying to time it up, you know he's coming on that blitz. The element of surprise clearly now gone. Gerald Brown knows he's missing an opportunity to make something happen in the backfield.
Gerald healthy again after a tough 2012 season. Tim Burke told us yesterday he feels Gerald Brown's the best DB in the CFL. And off Simpson. And this time Chad Simpson gets to the outside. And he'll get ridden out by Byron Parker, and flags fly as the tackle is made out of bounds. Chad Simpson 4th last year in rushing, despite foot problems almost all season long.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Montreal, number 21, hit out of bounds. 15 yards, first down.
That's the youngster Mike Edom at safety.
Edom known as a physical player. Little physical play here. Chris Matthews, there was a big block on Billy Parker on the play.
Edom out of the University of Calgary, the number 3 pick in the 2013 draft. So the Bombers in business, first down at the Alouette 48. Underneath, that one should have been picked off, and Gerald Brown drops what should have been an easy pick. Final play of this opening quarter as the Bombers fight back in on that touchdown pass to Chris Matthews. 14-10 in favor of Montreal. An eventful opening quarter after some long opening ceremonies here. And you wonder if that was a bit of a distraction.
Yeah, I think especially for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who have been anticipating this big grand opening for so long, that I think that's been so much the focus. This is a team that needed to almost get through some of that stuff before they could concentrate on playing football. And I think it showed out here where Montreal got off to that fast start on them, then the Bombers settled down a bit.
I was actually surprised Montreal started as well, because they were out in the field about 10 minutes before the Bombers, just waiting around, and you wondered. But Tyrone Carrier certainly had a fast start. That's what Dan Hawkins, as we heard, was asking for. But the Bombers have fought right back in it after falling behind by 14 early. Second and 10 for Buck Pierce, looking downfield, and overthrows the intended target, Terrence Edwards, who didn't get a lot of training camp either, as Edwards bounces back off foot surgery, and only in the last week or so did he really get up to speed.
A big concern roster-wise for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers coming into week one was whether or not Terrence Edwards was going to be able to play, and the much focus on keeping players healthy. Tim Burke didn't take a lot of veterans to that second preseason game for all his efforts. Still had Chris Matthews go down, who didn't practice all week with a foot injury at the start of week one.
Carrier back, Renault looking for the pin as he angles the punt, and it takes a kick into the end zone, and Carrier will put down a knee and concede a single point. Renault just missing the corner by a yard or two. So now a 3-point lead.
Mike Renault is a guy who survived a tough training camp battle as the Blue Bombers brought in 3 other non-import punters to training camp, compete with them. But Renault, by all accounts, had a very good camp. In order to hold on to his job, the only other survivor of that battle, the rookie draftee Billy Pavlopoulos, remains on the practice roster.
Bob Cameron, a legend with the Bombers. His son also part of that competition, Brett Cameron. A lot of people were pulling for him, but Mike Renault holds the job. Here's Chris Jennings with a cutback, and Jennings into the secondary before Javon Johnson and Terrell Parker bring him down. Jennings cut of the Alouettes back in 09, asked for his release and was immediately signed by the Cleveland Browns, but returned last year.
And Chris, this is exactly what you talk about when you use the term vision with a running back. The front side of this play is the right, but Chris Jennings just has a feel for where the defense is flowing and where this is going to open up. That's what you talk about with vision, is that sense, that feel for the game, the feel for the run game, and where that hole is going to be. Great cutback on that one.
16 for Jennings, who returned last September. There's that sweep play again to Devine, and he is lightning quick. A high school phenom in Florida. Noel Devine in his second year with the Alouettes.
And not typical in the Canadian Football League. You see a lot of teams who will use various receivers, various sweeps. BC Lions come to mind as a team that uses a lot of different ball carriers to attack different points in the run game. But to see this as a bread and butter play, a core play in terms of your run game. One of those new to the CFL wrinkles Anthony Calvillo talked about.
2nd and 5. Pressure on. Calvillo ducked and chucked, and it was over Delorier, incomplete.
Bombers again collapsing that pocket a little bit with just 4 men rushing up front. Good coverage on the outside. Brandon Stewart.
With so much emphasis on precision in the Mark Trestman offense, and you just have to expect that this is going to take a little bit of time for Calvillo to be sharp under a new system. Javon Johnson cuts back, and Chip Cox was waiting for him. Back at the 11, a 44-yard kick by Sean White. Grand opening of Investors Group Field, and let's go to the sidelines where Sarah Orlesky's with the commissioner of the CFL.
Thanks so much, Chris. Mark, throughout this entire process of building the stadium, you've been in Winnipeg at various points, you've seen it, and then you've been here since Tuesday. What does it look like now to you, though, especially filled with all of these fans?
I've stood here before with the hard hat on and steel-toed grebs on. It's amazing. You know, I have been here since Tuesday. To me, it feels like a mini Grey Cup. There's so much excitement in this city and in the stadium right now.
A new stadium this year, obviously here in Winnipeg, but this is the start of several of them, with Hamilton and Ottawa, obviously, in the next year, and then Regina a few years down the line. What does that say about the CFL right now?
What says me, last year we celebrated the past and our history with the country. Now this is all about the modern CFL, and this stadium represents that. So it's such an exciting time for us.
Thanks so much, Mark. Enjoy the game. Guys.
There's a pass intercepted, the first CFL interception for Mike Edom on a deflection, and Buck Pierce gets up limping a bit, and we noticed that limp after the touchdown pass to Chris Matthews.
But it's certainly something to keep an eye on for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but a bigger concern here, the play that leads to the interception. Jeff Tisdale, who had the earlier pick on the first offensive series for Winnipeg, comes up with the tip ball on this one. Essentially an assist to Mike Edom, second tip ball interception of the first half.
Well, they told us Mike Edom's going to be a star, and he has his first big stat, and that pass is caught. Jennings somehow brings it in and avoided a big hit and gets a first down. Not the way they draw it up, but 15 for Jennings.
Well, the bobble here is what allows Chris Jennings to turn this into a big play. He's just going to run a little leak route, an outlet for Anthony Calvillo. Enoch Mwamba's coming up on him in coverage. He's got his eye on that football. He takes his eye off the player, goes from thinking hit to thinking interception. Jennings at the last second snatches that ball and leaves Mwamba with nothing.
Well, this Alouette offense has been focused on Jennings and Devine so far. Back into the hands of Devine. Another sweep for him inside the 20-yard line. And that should be enough for another Montreal first down.
And you can bet on what adjustment number one is going to be for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defensively. You've got to understand they came into this football game not knowing what Montreal was going to run. You've got a new coaching staff, particularly on the offensive side of the football, and the Alouettes very intentionally didn't show a lot in their preseason games. So it's not like the Bombers had a great opportunity to prepare for this. This is stuff Montreal has worked in practice, but hasn't necessarily worked in games. And you've seen the Bombers ill-prepared to defend that Noel Devine sweep.
There's Casey Crehan, the new defensive coordinator, brought in by Tim Burke, who says they see the game very similarly, about 90%. And the head coach doesn't want a defensive coordinator that agrees with everything he says.
Casey Crehan, we know he's a fit here in Winnipeg. He and Tim Burke worked together for several years, both in Calgary. Both have actually spent some time in Montreal as well, but worked together for a couple of years here in Winnipeg prior to Crehan going to Hamilton for a season in 2012.
First down, Alouettes. Calvillo looks one way and now escapes the other into the end zone for Brandon London, incomplete. Kenny Maynard in Anthony Calvillo's kitchen once again.
Calvillo looked like he sort of shook off the open receiver in the flat on the front side of the play. Darren Diedrich, who's in at fullback, he's just going to run a quick shoot route out into the flat. Calvillo does the half roll that way, opens up that way and looks to him. Diedrich had some separation. Calvillo didn't like it. Scrambles back the other way.
AC started the night 1,506 yards from 80,000 on the odometer. Second and 10. Here they come on the blitz, and they get to the quarterback. D-Shot Dunn, the newcomer, shoots the gap and gets to Anthony Calvillo.
D-Shot Dunn learning under fire here, but he seems to pick it up just fine on this one. He's coming on the blitz. He's going to work outside that offensive tackle, then ducks in. Completely unblocked, lost in that blocking scheme by the Owls offensive line. Got to take the inside gap first. But when he comes to the inside, that tackle's got to fight off his man. And Jeff Parrott's got to pinch down on the blitzer.
Dunn playing in the starter's role for the injured Johnny Sears, who's close to returning. 37-yard field goal attempt for Sean White. Nice one to the holder, and Sean White puts it through. So the Alouettes lead is now 6.
Well, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are down by 6 points right now, but they're much bigger concern. Quarterback Buck Pierce watch that left knee take a quick tweak as he landed after the hit by Shea Emery. You saw the last interception he threw. Watch Pierce's reaction after he gets rid of that football. Had some trouble planting on the throw. You see him really favoring that leg after the play. Obviously, Buck Pierce All eyes on him, and particularly on his health. That is the biggest key to the success of this football team, Chris.
Justin Gault's not warming up on the sidelines. It will be Pierce to lead them back, and Will Ford misplayed that, but gets it up around the 30 to set things up as Buck Pierce will lead the offense back out.
And if you question how important Buck Pierce has been to this football team, over his 3 years with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, you see the time he's missed, 26 football games. Winnipeg Blue Bombers, 7-19 in the games without Buck. You're not going to make the playoffs with that kind of record.
Led them to a Grey Cup 2 years ago, a Grey Cup appearance. And after a 10-8 season, in fact, the Bombers, the more recent Grey Cup finalists than the Alouettes, who have missed the last 2 years, which is a slump. A fumble as Simpson lost it in that pile, and who's come up with it? Like the Alouettes had a pretty good shot at the football. And it is Alouette football, so another turnover, a couple of Pierce interceptions, and now Chad Simpson with a fumble.
Simpson usually pretty reliable in terms of ball security, but Kyrus Hebert had first shot at the ball, and then it looked like Scooter Barry got the left hand on it and ripped it out of there.
Barry out of West Virginia celebrated a birthday yesterday, and he grabs the football, and Dan Hawkins' club goes back on offense.
Don't want to give Anthony Calvillo too many opportunities like this, taking over possession at that 35-yard line.
Quick hitter into the hands of Brandon London. And he lunges down to the 26-yard line, working against Javon Johnson on the short corner.
First time we've really seen the Alouettes look to that matchup. 6'4" Brandon London against 5'9" Javon Johnson. Johnson, a year removed from being the CFL's most outstanding defensive player, 2011.
Boy, London looked all CFL when he was in the lineup for 12 games last year. Was injured, knee injury, had a 9-catch, 170-yard game against these Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Pitch to Jennings, and he is tripped up short of the first down.
The Alouettes continue to try to attack that perimeter, attack the edge of the Winnipeg Blue Bomber defense.
Going to be third and at least a couple. And Sean White to the field goal unit, sent back out.
Bombers defense steps up to dodge a bullet after the turnover.
Sean White surveys. 35-yard field goal. Looking for 13 points off turnovers in his opening half. And White puts it through. So it's now 20-11, Montreal here in the first half. Already watching on the sidelines to check the progress of Buck Pierce. Let's check in with Sarah Orlesky.
Well, Chris, you and Dwayne have already mentioned that Buck has shed about 25 pounds during the offseason. He told me he's the lightest right now he's been since he entered college. How did he do it? Through a lot of cardio. He said he actually ran 2 10K races for the first time ever during this offseason. He did all of his running outside, even in -40 winters. He was very dedicated to it, adjusting his diet, obviously, as well. He says he eats a lot of lean protein, and when you talk to those around him, they said that it was pretty remarkable just how dedicated he was to it this offseason.
Buck was going through his diet yesterday as Will Ford is tossed back, and you were almost in tears.
Well, he says he gave up red meat. I almost took that personally.
Well, he is lean, but can he become more resilient? A guy that just hasn't been able to avoid the injury bug. They're trying to avoid the hits, but we've already seen a couple on Buck Pierce in this first half. And you know he doesn't want us talking about it. We don't want to talk about it, but it's obviously a focus. Double tight ends to help protect as they go back to work on offense. Play action. There's Matthews, who set up inside, and Chip Cox wrestled him to the turf at the 28. 5 for Matthews.
Well, for Buck Pierce, we're going to call this the low light reel. The injuries that took him out of the lineup a season ago. Early season, that knee in Edmonton.
Hit by Brandon Isaac that led to a suspension. He played the first 3 games of the year, and then only 2 in September and 2 in October. 7 game starts, a record of 2-5 last year. Second down. Scrambling, and now out the flat. It's the fullback, Michel Pierre-Pontbriand, with the catch. Just 1 catch all of last year, and he's got a first down grab up at the 34.
And Pontbriand is one of the guys who's going to be critical to keeping Buck Pierce protected, not just by being in there in 2-back formation, 7-man protection, but also as a receiver, giving him an outlet, a check down guy, and also on those quick release routes. You've got to, if you're going to play your fullback, you've got to get him the ball sometimes to keep the defense honest.
Bunch formation short side. They come to the short side. This is Jade Etienne, who had a terrific camp, the University of Saskatchewan product, who was the number 4 pick in 2011. Just 1 grab in his opening 2 seasons in the league, and Etienne and the Bombers expecting a lot more this season.
Oh, they sure are. Jade Etienne has put some weight onto a frame that was less than 190 pounds on a 6'3", 6'4" receiver when he first came into the league. But the Bombers liked his upside. A big play guy at the University of Saskatchewan. Hope he can become that here in Winnipeg.
Just a couple for Etienne, 2nd and 8. Pierce sets up, looks to the sidelines, and can't make the connection with Chris Matthews.
Chris Matthews, guy who had some huge games against the Montreal Alouettes last season. 4 meetings between these 2 teams, 25 catches, 368 yards. A big chunk of Matthews' season total in his Rookie of the Year campaign.
Renault to punt. And Carrier back at his 21. 77 yards, punt return, touchdown. Better cover since then. Ball came loose. Carrier reels it back in with penalty markers on the field. And there's the fullback, Pontbriand, downfield in a hurry.
They're not all going to be as easy as the first one was for Tyrone Carrier.
Not if Craig Dickinson has his way. 53-yard punt by Renault, and let's find out what Al Bradbury's got.
During the return, illegal block. Montreal, number 10. Not the distance to the goal. First down.
Marc-Olivier Bouillet flagged, and so the ball will be marked inside the 10-yard line. Back at the 9 for Dan Hawkins. No shortage of good quotes for the coach. One of my favorites yesterday, when you asked about any advice for young quarterbacks, and he said, yeah, make sure you hit the cutoff man with this field in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah. Much like Mark Trestman 5 years ago, Dan Hawkins learning on the fly here in the CFL, finding out the nuances of the Canadian game. The big field being one of them, and again, Hawkins, primarily a guy with an offensive background, a former fullback, by the way, in his playing days. But looks at what the big field offers. You knew I would at some point.
And he bonded immediately with him.
But he admitted there are going to be some challenges along the way. He says he's still waiting for that welcome to the CFL moment where something catches him completely off guard, but he knows it's going to come at some point.
For getting a challenge on that bobble by Carrier. Looked like he ended up with the football in any event, but Tim Burke might have seen it differently.
I suspect Tim Burke is eyeing an opportunity here, given the field position that would be afforded the Winnipeg Blue Bombers should they be granted a turnover.
So there's the fumble, and it looked like it indeed was a fumble, but a pretty acrobatic recovery by Carrier.
The ruling on the field was that the ball had been loose and recovered by Montreal. The Winnipeg coach did not know that, therefore when he challenged, we gave him that information. We're allowing him to withdraw his challenge. There is no challenge on this play.
So a fair ruling. Tim Burke obviously believing that the initial call then was no fumble at all, or that the ball was, any fumble was caused by the ground.
Well, the Alouettes in a hole. Out to Arlen Bruce off his shoe top, but quickly brought down by Alex Suber. Well, the 2013 season kickoff continues with Wendy's Friday Night Football tomorrow here on TSN. First up, Tiger Cats in Toronto to take on the Grey Cup champions, followed by the Lions and Stampeders. Western Final rematch at McMahon gets underway at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on TSN. Glad I don't make predictions because I didn't like the matchups in week 1 for easy pickings. Second and 11, flag down from his goal line. Out of the reach of Brandon London, incomplete.
Flag down on the play.
While we have the opportunity, I'd like to say hello to viewers south of the border watching on the NBC Sports Network.
Offside, Montreal, number 14. Penalties declined, third down.
So London was ahead of the snap, and it's a 2-and-out inside the 10. And Dan Hawkins has one of his first CFL decisions to make. You concede 2 here, back at the 8-yard line with your punter standing in the end zone.
That is conventional CFL wisdom. Take the safety, because this is such a game of field position, critical. You don't want to punt and give the ball to the other team already in your territory. You'd rather kick off and try and start them deep in their own end in exchange for those 2 points.
Javon Johnson awaiting, but it will be Sean White. And will he concede? Going to kill some time here and then step out. So now it's a 7-point game. Dan Hawkins with many veteran CFLers on his staff, including former Winnipeg head coach Doug Barry, who's in a consultant advisor role. And you know that was a situation that's been discussed quite a bit in preparation. Big staff for Dan Hawkins.
That sure is. If you talk about that CFL experience, it's particularly on that defensive side of the ball. Noel Thorpe, the defensive coordinator, a guy who spent some time in Montreal before, also time with the Edmonton Eskimos, very familiar with those special team situations, as he used to coordinate that unit.
Ray Ryslewski, NFL veteran coach, an assistant with the Indianapolis Colts, and there's Doug Barry, a familiar face to everybody in the league, and especially here in Winnipeg.
Another familiar face to fans in the Peg. Right beside him, Mark Nelson, former defensive coach here in Winnipeg, also lending some of his Canadian football experience to Dan Hawkins' staff.
So after conceding the safety, it's White to kick it off from his 25. It'll be Will Ford. And Ford finds a little crease up to around the 47-yard line. So Buck Pierce, within a touchdown of the lead, will lead the Bombers back to work.
Giant. Here we go. Trio left tight, 119 Whale, alert 89. Repeat, hurry up.
It would be great if we knew exactly what all that meant from Buck Pierce.
First, Keaton should set the protection in this new Winnipeg system. Then they back off, call the play, looking for Denmark, and Jeff Tisdale in tight coverage once again.
Chris, you alluded to a change in the way the Bombers work their protections this year. One of the biggest changes is that the quarterback, Buck Pierce, rather than the center, Justin Sorensen, is the guy who makes the first call in terms of protection. And that the most important element is they've got to identify the middle linebacker, the MAC linebacker. Once Buck Pierce identifies him, Justin Sorensen can direct traffic a little bit. But in doing that, Buck Pierce is the man who determines who the three-man might be.
In this formation, it looks like it could be Kowali or a bear. And rolling right off his back foot, he throws incomplete, and Kyrus Hebert with another hit on the quarterback, and that has the Bomber bench enraged that there was no call.
You can see on that play that clearly the calling of protections and execution of them still a learning process for the Bombers. Shea Emery came free.
Excuse me, there is a flag.
Offside, Winnipeg,
The line
number
of
13. Penalty decline, third down.
So the offside was called, but not that hit on Pierce at the end of the play.
Shea Emery tucked right up in the line in front of Kyrus Hebert. He's going to come on that blitz. And probably with the stack, I'll tell you exactly what's happening. Confusion for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with those guys stacked in the same position. They're going to establish a count off the MAC linebacker. They're not sure how to count that stack. Chad Simpson left blocking nobody as Emery came free.
So I wasn't the only one. Carrier picks it up, he draws the no yards, and gets taken down quickly. It'll be a 5-yard penalty against the Bombers after the 46-yard punt by Renault. Well, under 3 minutes remaining here in the opening half, and it's GMC Live at the half, and the guys are on the scene in Milt Stiegel's neighborhood. Matt Milt and Paul LaFelice and Dave Randorf will talk about what they've seen in this first half. It's had plenty going on in the 2013 season kickoff. Of course, Milt might just talk about his touchdown from Dunnigan.
Milt put up a lot of yardage in that pregame.
Anthony Calvillo back to work over the middle, and a catch is made. S.J. Green out fighting DeMond Washington for the reception.
And again, you're going to see exactly the thing that Paul LaFelice talked about in the opening. You've got a big receiver working against a smaller defender in Washington. Tight coverage, but the big body boxes out the little body. He's trying to make a play on that ball, but he can't get to it around that 6'2", 220-pound frame.
Washington winning the job at defensive halfback after Jonathan Hepney was let go. Two-time All-CFLer Chris Jennings for short yardage.
We'll see Jonathan Hepney in action tomorrow night. His new team, the Calgary Stampeders. DeMond Washington, a terrific training camp by all accounts. As much as people may have thought there were other reasons behind the Jonathan Hepney release, the fact is DeMond Washington had a terrific camp and won the job.
Second and 9. Calvillo has a completion. Arlen Bruce is finally wrestled down. There's Deshaun Dunn in coverage, but the veteran Bruce has his second catch of this first half.
And a bullet there from Anthony Calvillo. You'll see the velocity he puts on this one.
Bruce a touchdown in the preseason against the Argos at varsity. And 13 on the catch to move the chains for the Alouettes to the Winnipeg 51. Here's that sweep to Devine, And he breaks a tackle. Super couldn't bring him down for a loss. And Devine gets jolted out at the 46 and has 5. Alex Super had a shot at Devine for what would have been a sizable loss.
And their defensive coordinators around the Canadian Football League taking notes right now on the Montreal Alouettes offense and the role of Noel Devine. You can guarantee that when the scout teams are running, when they prep for Montreal, there will be a number 5 jersey on that scout team offense.
Devine 5 carries, 38 yards in this opening half. 2nd and 4, got it away quickly, and the throw behind is caught by London. Great adjustment by London to snag that first down catch.
And this is a terrific job recognizing what's going on by both Calvillo and his receiver, Brandon London, on the play. Calvillo's got the pressure there. He's got to get rid of it in a hurry. He knows that Brandon London's not going to be able to outrun his defender by that point. He opts for that throw behind. Great adjustment by London to come back and get that football. He's the outside guy on the top of your screen. Coach's son, of course, his dad, Mike, the head coach at the University of Virginia.
Here's Jennings with good second effort, crashing down to the 27-yard line. 5 more for Chris Jennings. Pretty balanced Alouette attack in this opening half.
And we haven't seen a lot of runs between the tackles, Chris, but this is an element that Chris Jennings gives them certainly in this lineup. They've got Jerome Messam acquired from Edmonton in the offseason. He's on the injured list right now with a hamstring tear. But you've got some big power backs now. That's a little bit of a change from what the Alouettes have traditionally had. You see a look at offensive coordinator Mike Miller mixing things up.
See what he's got on 2nd and 5. Time for Calvillo. Arlen Bruce with strong hands to bring that in and move the chains again.
That's one of the things that has always stood out in the game of Arlen Bruce is his effortlessness in catching the football in traffic. There's no fighting the football. There's no bobbling it. Every ball seems to have a soft landing when it reaches this guy.
Next catch will push him ahead of Rocky DiPietro into 11th on the all-time catch list. There's Devine again. The end around this time red and stopped, dropped for a loss.
Calvillo marching the Alouettes down the field here.
Timeout.
Passing game.
Montreal.
Perfect 4 for 4 in this possession.
So 18 seconds remaining. Time for a couple of plays. But they'll have to confer on what to call on 2nd and long here. 2nd and 13. As they try to enhance this 7-point lead at the half.
I'll tell you, you see a lot of Bomber defenders out there taking their helmets off, taking a knee. Conditioning is going to be an issue here in the first week of the season, especially for a team where not many of the starters played in week 2 of the preseason, didn't play a lot in week 1. The only way you get in shape to play football is by playing football.
2nd and long over the middle. He's got Jamel Richardson down to the 5-yard line with a dozen seconds left, so there's time for a play before a field goal opportunity.
Jamel Richardson lines up as the number 2 receiver, and that trips to the wide side. And you see the big body. He just runs through the attempted jam of the much smaller Alex Suber. Calvillo hits him in stride.
20-yard pickup, draw play, Jennings, and Chris Jennings will be pushed back. Koshi Muamba, the new safety, saves a touchdown.
Koshi Muamba, free agent signing from the BC Lions, steps up to fill the gaps. It looked like Chris Jennings was going to roll into the end zone here. Steps up and makes the play for the Muamba brothers. It's just like the good old days playing high school football. Fathergate Secondary School in Mississauga. 2 guys happy to be teammates again.
So they do have to settle for 3, a 9-yard attempt. And Sean White will put it through. And so it will be a 10-point Alouette lead at the half.
A great half of football by both these 2 teams, overcoming the distraction of the stadium opening. to make some big plays in the early going here, Chris.
Let's check in with Sarah Orleski, standing by with Dan Hawkins.
Dan, how would you describe those first 2 quarters for this Alouettes team?
Well, we played pretty well defensively. We missed out on some opportunities to score. You know, we're getting 3s instead of 7s. We get those turnovers. We got a little continuity going back there in the second quarter late offensively, but a little battlefield position. We just missed on a couple things. Running game's going good. Got to clean up a couple things. Long game left.
So what becomes the message at the half?
Just got to clean it up, and we're just a step off here or there offensively. And like I said, we got to learn to convert. When we get turnovers, our defense doing a good job there. When you get a turnover deep in their territory, you got to get 7, not 3.
Thanks so much for this.
Thank you.
Live at the Half is brought to you by GMC. We are professional grade.
Bombers trail by 10 as we get ready for the second half. But first, Tim Burks with Sarah Orleski.
Tim, you said coming into this game that you didn't know exactly what Montreal was going to throw at you because you didn't see a lot during the preseason. What did you think of that first half?
Well, I guess I don't know defensively if they threw much at us that we hadn't seen. You know, we just can't turn the ball over like we did. You know, I think there were times where we moved the ball pretty well, but as soon as you turn it over, I mean, everything, your offense is done. So we've got to do a much better job in that respect. Offensively, they probably had some plays we haven't seen, but I thought we played them pretty well for the most part. Defense has been holding us in the game.
Second half underway. Will Ford with the kick return. And he is tripped up across the 35-yard line. Let's check the halftime numbers as Buck Pierce gets set to go back to work.
But it's not necessarily huge offensive numbers in this football game, particularly for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but this has definitely, Chris, been one of those games of big plays, and particularly the turnovers that Tim Burke talked about. Montreal Alouettes, 13 points coming off those changes of possession.
Alouettes with a quick 14-0 lead. Bombers got back into it, but it's 10-point Montreal lead as we start this third quarter. And more scrutiny on Buck Pierce as he was on the limp a little bit in that opening half. First down, John Bowman off the edge, and downfield, catch is made. There's Jade Etienne, his biggest play in the Canadian Football League, and now down inside the 10. Well, that's what they were hoping for from Jade Etienne in his third year.
They sent both their Canadian receivers deep on that play. Corey Watson crossing to one side. Jade Etienne split out and went the other way. Etienne does a nice job here. He waggles out, and then he's just going to find a soft spot and go and sit down. Corey Watson is going deep the other way. Good recognition by Etienne. This is what the Bombers saw in this guy when they drafted him.
Out of the end zone, touchdown, Clarence Denmark. Just like that.
Winnipeg Blue Bombers roaring back with the kind of start Montreal had to open this ball game. Buck Pierce, we know he spent a lot of time in the offseason studying Anthony Calvillo. There you see the quick step and release from the Bomber QB.
Bombers calling that their follows. Backing up a big play with another quick play. Almost no huddle. And after the 66-yard strike to Etienne, the connection to Clarence Denmark for a touchdown that gets them within a field goal.
Let's go, baby. What's up, Mom? You already know. All my family back in Duval. Let's go. I don't remember doing it.
2 plays, 74 yards, an 8-yard touchdown reception by Clarence Denmark in the opening minute of the third quarter.
Well, Jade Etienne had the big play to set it up. Motions out, pushes deep. Chris Matthews draws 2 defenders towards him with the inside. Etienne hangs to the outside. Great burst upfield. Sets up the Bombers and in close. And then wants a nice feed here from Clarence Denmark, as we'll see the touchdown after this kickoff return.
Noel Devine from his 11. And up around the 30-yard line, taken down. Take a look at the touchdown.
You saw a big play from Clarence Denmark against Jeff Tisdale early in this ball game, where Tisdale didn't get his hands on him. Here, Denmark likes that standing start. Great jab to the outside. Again, comes off the line untouched. Buck Pierce, we're keeping an eye on that left knee of Buck Pierce. Watch him step up and plant here. Gets everything on that throw. Seems to be managing just fine here in the second half.
First possession, Alouettes. Second half, Jennings inside, and not much there as he crosses the 30 and has a couple.
The Alouette leaders in the first half of this ball game. Of course, Anthony Calvillo in typical AC form, airing it out 155 yards through the air. Chris Jennings 8 touches in the first half. Arlen Bruce 4 catches, 35 yards to lead the receivers. The biggest factor perhaps offensively, Noel Devine in that sweep in the ground game.
Second and 8. Calvillo sets, drops, and pass incomplete. Intended for Richardson. Deshaun Dunn on the scene defensively.
Well done, picking up a little bit of confidence. He had his issues in coverage in his preseason debut at that Sam linebacker spot, a spot that's been really a tough one for the Bombers to fill since the departure of Clint Kent after training camp last year.
So a 2-play touchdown for the Bombers and a 2-and-out supplied by the defense as they try to get back into it. Sean White blasts the kick, and it'll be Johnson. Check that, Demont Washington on the return, dancing and escaping. And now he's got a lot of room to roll. Sean White trying to cut him off. Back inside, and Washington scores. Touchdown.
What an effort.
And DeMond Washington gives the Bombers their first ever lead here in this stadium.
Well, we always say it takes all 12 men on the field doing their job to make a big play like that happen. But I think DeMond Washington gets a little extra credit for this one. He kept the legs churning. It looked like he was dead right at the point of attack. But reversing field, using his speed to get to the outside. Corey Watson was leading the way, but didn't really manage to get anybody. It was the moves of Washington that made it happen. Fighting for the goal line at the end. Just a tremendous effort from the Bombers' return man.
Well, replaced by Javon Johnson. As you mentioned, had fumble problems early last year. Devon Washington just lit up on that punt return.
Let's go, man. 2
touchdowns in 1:35 here early in the third quarter. And suddenly it's a Bomber lead. The Alouettes had a pair of touchdowns in a 1:45 span early in the opening quarter.
As the expression goes, turnabout is fair play. Bombers giving the Alouettes a taste of their own medicine here to open the second half and bring this Investors Group Field crowd to life.
Not a bad start to 2013. Here's Devine. Up across the 30 and cut down at the 35-yard line. Enoch Mwamba. And Anthony Calvillo gets set to try and respond.
And again, here's what he's responding to. The big play from DeMond Washington. He just keeps buzzing and buzzing on this play. As I said, a lot of the reward goes to him. Nice seal right there from Alex Suber to get him around the corner. And DeMond Washington would not be denied.
Rock and throw to Delorier, and he is punished, although Javon Johnson may have got the worst of that collision up at the 40-yard line.
looks like it could be a bit of a burner for Javon Johnson, who stepped into Delorier just as he caught the ball and turned. Johnson's head snapped back a little bit on that play. He's to the sidelines, another newcomer, Marty Marquette. First-year player out of South Carolina comes in to replace him on the boundary corner. Matched up on Brandon London.
Excuse me, Dwayne, we're told Marquette the fastest man on the Bombers' defense. Flags fly, the play doesn't get off.
Time count. Montreal, number 13. 5-yard penalty. Remains second down.
Well, that was a regular feature at Canadiens, and it's the first one here in the new Investors Group Field.
I was going to say, knowing those Winnipeg fans, it's not going to get any quieter once they hear that call.
Well, that's just with the defense being urged on. I think we're well above Tom Cochran and Brock Carson after the Washington punt return touchdown. Field trouble and dropped back at the 25-yard line. Nine sacks for Hall last year, including 3 against Montreal.
Alex Hall quickly becoming one of the top pass rushers in the Canadian Football League. Inside route, loses Andrew Woodruff on that loop to the inside.
Second sack of the game for the Bomber defense. And Devon Washington awaits. Not as deep a kick by White. Check that, Javon Johnson was back, and so he's okay. And the ball bounces out of bounds near midfield. Great field position for Buck Pierce when we come back. Back in Winnipeg, let's head back to the sidelines here again. Sarah Orlesky.
Well, Chris, when the Bombers have talked about Jade Etienne since drafting him in 2011, a lot of talk has always been about his speed, and we saw that on that 66-yard catch that helped set up the Clarence Denmark touchdown. There's been a lot of criticism for the Bombers, though, ever since they took him 4th overall in the 2011 draft. I asked Terrence Edwards about Etienne heading into this game. He stopped in his tracks and said it is a night and day difference from what we saw last year. They attribute it to his confidence. And there was a lot of speculation that he was starting because Keto Pobla is on the one-game injured list, but I've been told that if Etienne plays well tonight, that he may remain a starter even when Pobla gets healthy.
Well, the young guys made an impact, and there's the vet with a catch inside the 40-yard line. Terrence Edwards with a grab, and the Bombers are on the move again.
Terrence Edwards, inside man. He's running the out route on this play. Inside man against Trips. Good break, good separation from Chip Cox in coverage. And again, perfectly placed throw from Buck Pierce.
Short drop, quick hitter. Pierce hooks up with Matthews. Majiro Kowali in on the tackle of the Rookie of the Year, Chris Matthews, who has 7.
Well, Sarah mentioned the criticism that the Bombers face for taking Jade Etienne. We've seen the guys drafted right after him, Nate Kuhorn, Marco Iannuzzi with breakout years last year. Look for the 3 and 4 picks, Anthony Parker and Etienne to follow suit.
There's Etienne again, the first down catch. Billy Parker brings him down. But again, 1 catch in 2 years. Jade Etienne maybe on his way to his first 100-yard game.
Jade Etienne has all the tools, soft hands, big frame, just needs to get a little bit stronger. And that confidence that Sarah mentioned.
3 catches, 80 yards. Pierce looking and now changing the play as the clock ticks down. He gets the snap off and calls the draw to Simpson. Chad Simpson spins off first contact and down at the 15-yard line. 6 for Simpson. Looks like Buck Pierce may have had some trouble with the signals from the sidelines.
That crowd noise. Now you see the Bomber fans getting it after seeing Buck Pierce covering his ears in order to hear that transmission from the sideline.
So 2nd and 4. at the Alouette 15-yard line. Pierce holds on, and he's going to have to eat the football. Dropped outside the line of scrimmage.
That's that moment when everybody in the stadium holds their breath.
And did we see hesitation? We know he would have taken off automatically in the past. Almost like the clamps have been put on him. And he ends up getting dropped for a loss, and the field goal team comes on. So Pilardi trying to make it a 7-point game, and he does. They trailed by 10 at the half, but now up by a touchdown. Our sack tally again this year brought to you by Purolator, tackling hunger across Canada. Check. And there were the numbers last year. We salute the Purolator people for the terrific work they do.
Absolutely, and of course, Schultze. Big supporter of quarterbacks getting sacked, which would seem to contradict everything Schultze did in his career.
Lions led last year, but you see Winnipeg and Montreal among the leaders. Tim Burke told us yesterday the sack and sack against category in the CFL. Well, first S.J. Green, big catch. And S.J. Green has Montreal back inside the 50, and Anthony Calvillo took a hit, and he's been shaken up. Shaking that right throwing hand.
Well, we've seen Anthony Calvillo take a couple of shots, not necessarily big ones, but getting hit a little bit more than we're used to in this ball game. AC waits this one out for S.J. Green to come open deep.
Kenny Maynard with the shot on the quarterback. JT Gilmore was shaken up as well on the play. He's getting attention as Calvillo tries to get a little feeling back in the right hand, but yesterday Tim Burke mentioned that quarterback sack versus the quarterback sacks you allow, that ratio more important in the Canadian Football League to be good than even in the National Football League, and it's an area that they're looking for improvement, and JT Gilmore, a little woozy as he is, helped off.
Take a look here, watch the right hand of Anthony Calvillo as he follows through on this throw. Wraps his hand right off the helmet of Kenny Maynard, who is coming in to deliver that hit.
27-yard pickup for S.J. Green. London in motion. And they'll swing it out to Green. And he is cut down by Brandon Stewart on the corner. Limits the gain to 3.
That's perfectly played by Brandon Stewart because he is the only guy out there with a shot to make the play. Jamel Richardson sealed the inside defender. Alex Zuber with a block outside in right here. And then it's one-on-one in space. Brandon Stewart gets it done.
Alan Bruce on the move, 2nd and 7. Pressure on again. Calvillo scrambles and he brought down. Kenny Maynard gets to the quarterback and drops Anthony Calvillo for the 3rd sack of the game.
Well, this is exactly what this team needs from Kenny Maynard in order to be successful. Again, it's strictly a 4-man rush from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They're dropping everyone else back into coverage. Kenny Maynard working against Jeff Parrott, just gets underneath him with that pad level. Track down the QB.
15 sacks in the past 2 years in limited reps. In fact, Maynard with only 6 game starts. And now a regular with the departure of Jason Vega. So White forced a punt. Javon Johnson hoping that'll bounce into the end zone, and it does. And it will be a single point. 6-point lead for Winnipeg. Wimbledon 2013 continues tomorrow morning. TSN, your home for all the action. You can watch it live on TSN, TSN Mobile TV, and exclusive live bonus coverage on tsn.ca with coverage beginning at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific. So 30-24 is the Bomber lead here with just over 5.5 minutes remaining in the 3rd quarter.
just in terms of the compete factor that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have shown in this ball game, suggesting that it's a whole new year here in the Peg.
And a time count violation against the Bombers.
Time count violation. Winnipeg, number 4. 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
So they'll reset. A little surprising they'd have trouble executing a play after on their first play of the series, but now they're ready to go. First and 15. Pierce pumps, held on, and now underneath he's got a catch. Completed to Chad Simpson out of the backfield, and Simpson close to the first down. He'll be dropped a yard and a half short. Up at the 43-yard line.
Only Buck Pierce knows whether a year ago in this situation, if he would have pulled the ball down and tried to run it upfield. But here you see, look at the eyes. Eyes downfield the whole way, manages to find Chad Simpson. Turns it into a positive play without taking a hit.
So marked right at the 43. It'll be 2nd and 2. Simpson in behind Pierce, takes the handoff, a little sidestep, and he'll have the first down across the 45.
Well, Tim Burke took over the Bombers midway through last season. He kept his job and he kept much of this team intact. The only significant addition being free agent safety Koshi Mwamba replacing the veteran Ian Logan. A few other veterans departing along the way, but a team that largely chose to stand pat in the offseason despite missing the playoffs.
And the players have filled in roles from the practice roster a year ago, and there's a feet first slide as Pierce hits the deck in a hurry with John Bowman sizing him up. Gain of about 3 for Pierce.
Good decision there for Buck Pierce to get down in a hurry, and we saw it a little bit earlier as he started to take off upfield a little bit. He got down, protected himself. Buck Pierce has to recognize that changing his style is important to the success of this team. He's got to do his part to keep himself healthy. It can't be all on the blocking scheme and the guys around him.
First run by Pierce on the night. 2nd and 7. Flush from the pocket. He's got Matthews, and Chris Matthews, little tightrope, stays in and gets some yards after the catch before he's dropped at the 36.
Buck Pierce showing some great improvisational skills here. In the second half, making plays on the run. Chris Matthews starts off working in that backfield, and he's eventually going to come all the way across the field on this play. Completely lost in coverage as he goes through traffic.
Again, after a big play, they go with a hurry-up concept, no huddle. Pierce getting Simpson in the right spot after the 25-yard gain by Matthews, and look out, Chip Cox off the edge, buries Buck Pierce.
Well, Chip Cox, least likely guy among the linebackers to come on any sort of a blitz, but he's coming on this one all the way. See that all-up look, 7 guys lined up across the line of scrimmage. They're all coming. He only got 6 blockers. Awareness from Buck Pierce. Buck's the guy setting the blocking scheme, so he knows he's putting Chad Simpson on Kai Grisebear, who's coming from the other side of that formation. He knows, though, that if Cox comes, he's free on the other side.
Now they go 2 back on 2nd and 15. Here comes the heat again. Pierce escapes initially and now is brought down by the newcomer, Aaron Lavaris, dropping Pierce as the Alouettes turn up the heat that time on the protection, emphasizing Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yeah, and it's, again, the kind of thing the Bombers need to get to the sidelines, look at the board, and straighten things out. Far too much pressure. Buck Pierce was able to make some positive plays in facing that, but you can't have that kind of pressure on every single play of a drive.
So Pilardi sent on to try a 48-yarder. His longest last season was 46. He's made from 35 and 23 on the night. Justin Pilardi puts it up and through. A 48-yarder for Pilardi. And it's a 9-point Bomber lead. Well, CTV's new Monday night comedy, Satisfaction, with a new episode. Special guest star Wendell Clark, Monday at 8, 7 Central on CTV.
Wendell Clark's on, I'm watching.
Hope he doesn't drop the gloves. Well, a 19-point swing here in this third quarter. Calvillo up, and he has Arlen Bruce with a catch, short yardage, as Bruce will be marked down at the 39-yard line. Gain of 4 to maybe 5, depending on the exact spot.
Chris, I never imagined midway through the first quarter of this football game that we'd be talking about the Montreal Alouettes need to bounce back in this ball game. Off to a tremendous start. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers have roared back.
20-1 swing here in this third quarter in favor of Winnipeg. Calvillo, Richardson, a little push off to get room, but the pass over his head as he worked against Alex Suber. Flag on the field back at the line of scrimmage.
Illegal contact on a receiver. Winnipeg, number 7. 10-yard penalty. First down.
That's DeMond Washington, and that will keep the Alouette offense on the field.
DeMond Washington covering the inside receiver on this play. See, he has to grab to stay alive as S.J. Green got underneath him on that contact.
So it's a first down, Alouettes at their 50. Hit screen, Delorier cuts back, tripped up, Alex Suber. And Suber gets into the face of Arlen Bruce, who was unable to block the defensive halfback.
Well, you think back to Alex Suber's first year in the CFL back in 2010. It was a game against the Hamilton Tiger Cats where he's matched up against Arlen Bruce. It was kind of his coming out party. Basically turned in a very strong performance against one of the best receivers in the league. A few big plays in that ball game, and that was kind of what put Alex Suber on the CFL radar.
I did a double take. Suber without an interception all of last year. There's a pass and knocked down. There's Dunn, intended for Bruce. But DJ Dunn with another defensive play. And that's the end of the third quarter. A big one for the home side. $19-point swing in that third quarter. Big numbers for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yeah, absolutely. The big number, bottom right of your screen, 148 passing yards for Buck Pierce in that third quarter. Huge in terms of regaining the momentum and obviously taking the lead in this ballgame.
And DeMond Washington with the punt return, that's the biggest play other than the Etienne 66-yarder. Did you see any adjustments, though, that made Winnipeg have that much success against the Alouettes?
Well, the biggest thing for Winnipeg is that Buck Pierce is throwing the ball with confidence. He was getting time when they were moving the football. Obviously, Montreal seemed to adjust a little bit as that quarter went on, and deciding we need to get to Buck Pierce. We can't give him time to make those plays.
Seemed to have some issues planting late in the first half, but came out firing and moving the football in the third quarter. But on that last series, the Alouettes defense got to the quarterback, and now they're on offense, punting the football away to start this fourth quarter. Javon Johnson run out along the sidelines, and Winnipeg will start inside their 15.
Winnipeg Blue Bombers opened it up in that third quarter. Big bomb on the outside, Buck Pierce to Jade Etienne. Etienne did a nice job setting the table for a Clarence Denmark touchdown on the quick slant. Bombers immediately answer the next time they touch the ball. DeMond Washington with a punt return for a major to give his team the lead.
2 touchdowns in a 95-second span, and Justin Pilardi with a big 48-yard field goal. Here's Simpson running up to the 16-yard line for Chad Simpson. Hasn't been able to be sprung on the ground much tonight.
There you see Buck Pierce in that third quarter, the way he grabbed momentum. They opened things up a little bit, obviously a little bit conservative in terms of their approach in the first 30 minutes of this ball game. We saw a lot of 7-man protections and so on, but they opened it up, spread things out, get that big play to Etienne and loosen up the defense.
2 interceptions in the first half, including one on the first play from scrimmage. 2nd and 7, and looking for Edwards, but that's sailed high and incomplete. So the Alouettes get a 2-and-out that they're looking for, and should get good field position for their first offensive possession of the fourth quarter.
We had expressed our concern in that last series about the amount of pressure Buck Pierce was facing. And here's exactly why. Ejiro Kowali comes free on the loop inside on this one. Sticks his helmet right in the chest of the Bomber quarterback.
And Kowali knocked Buck Pierce out of a game in 2011 with a hit that drew a suspension. What a monster Grey Cup game he had for the Toronto Argonauts. Carrier awaits a line drive boot by Renault that rolls across midfield and finally picked up, but no yards will be called as Carrier gets taken down by Pierre-Luc Labbé after a 40-yard punt.
Ejiro Kowali and Buck Pierce, they're no strangers on the football field. You saw them meet moments ago. Look back a couple of years. Ejiro Kowali took Buck Pierce out of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers lineup with this hit, Rogers Center in Toronto. Deep and late hit by the Canadian Football League.
5-yard, no yards penalty against Brandon Stewart. Puts the ball across midfield, and Calvillo unable to make the connection with S.J. Green down at the 30. It'll be 2nd and 10.
Well, this is the kind of play that Dan Hawkins talked about at halftime. The Montreal Alouettes are just a little bit off. They're just missing by a bit on offense in this ball game. They need to clean it up. Things need to be a little bit tighter. Everybody needs to get on the same page a little bit more in order for them to be successful.
These two teams will meet again next week. Bombers have 5 back-to-back sessions this year, tied with Hamilton for the league most in that department. 2nd and 10, and he tried to dump it off to Darren Diedrich, and it falls incomplete. And Calvillo shows a little frustration heading off.
This isn't the way things usually go for the Montreal Alouettes. They're used to things running at peak efficiency. It was 5 years of fine-tuning under Mark Trestman, and now they're back at the start, learning as they go under new head coach Dan Hawkins and offensive coordinator Mike Miller.
Jovan Johnson awaits at the 10. One angling to the sidelines, and Sean White hits the corner. What a terrific punt, and they'll mark him out at about the 2-yard line. White into the corner for 51. CFL on TSN is brought to you by GMC. We are professional grade. And we are at brand new Investors Group Field in Winnipeg on this historic night. The home side has a 9-point lead, but they're in a bit of a bind right now thanks to Sean White. Punt into the corner leaves the Bombers first down at their own 2. 2-back formation. Stay in the block. And then dumped off. A catch is made. Or is it? The whistle blew before any contact. And so let's find out if it's ruled a catch or not.
Given the field position.
Nope, incomplete.
I don't know if the Bombers would want to challenge this, or we'll take a closer look ourselves. It's a tough one to sell. If you watch the movement of the ball, it looks like it stops moving because it hits the ground.
Yep.
We're going to rule it a trap, which is the right call.
Brett Strong, the line judge, made that call emphatically and correctly. 2nd and 10. And underneath, it's Edwards incomplete. 2 and out. And now Tim Burke likely to concede 2.
John Bowman comes up with the big play. He's going to loop to the inside on this one. Sell it upfield. Take that unexpected inside route on the tackle. Caught Shannon Bowman flat-footed.
Dwayne, they haven't been able to generate much on the ground tonight. Chad Simpson's been limited to 7 carries, 26 yards. And they didn't even opt there to try Simpson. And now likely to concede 2 and make it a 7-point game.
And if you're going to be successful on the ground, you've got to commit to that ground game. And the Bombers know the importance of being successful with that run game, because that's one of the things that's going to help them in their protections.
Time count violation. Winnipeg, number 9. Main 3rd down.
Well, they run it down as much as they can.
Obviously, the consideration to take a safety here, a tough one with a 9-point lead.
And they turn Renault loose. Well, that is a surprise. Carrier's got it at the 40-yard line, dancing around, and he'll be brought down on a tackle by Montreal. Ball's loose. Does Svetkovic have it? Looked like they ruled play dead, but Svetkovic, the long snapper, on the football, and now we got a little dust up. And how's this going to be called? Ed Geaney in there trying to regain possession, but there's the veteran with the football. Was Carrier down and was play stopped? I think we're going to get a challenge regardless.
Well, a pivotal play either way.
Well, that's a gutsy play by Tim Burke, and it may come up big for him. They're ruling it Alouette football, and there will not be a challenge. I was surprised at that.
We'll take a look at it after this play. But clearly not as close as may have been thought.
And Devine out of the backfield. Does he make the catch? No, incomplete. Let's have a look.
Keep an eye on that left knee of the returner, Tyrone Carrier. Yep. Knee is clearly down. The ball is in his possession.
Fans saw a replay and started to cheer, and you could see the Bombers looking at the scoreboard, and Tim Burke saw enough to wisely not challenge. Second and 10. A punt from Calvillo. And now he'll heave it downfield. Wants S.J. Green. Touchdown! What a catch by Green.
The human highlight reel does it again.
Sorry about that.
Anthony Calvillo just throws a dime on this one through defenders as he steps up to avoid the rush. And S.J. Green, watch the concentration from the veteran receiver. 2 defenders right in front of him, just beyond the fingertips.
So a 42-yard touchdown pass. Anthony Calvillo now with 450 career touchdown tosses. And S.J. Green over 100 on the night. 5th catch for a 120 yards. The extra point, and now it's a 2-point game. Anthony Calvillo does it again. S.J. Green and the Alouettes trying to spoil the party here at Canada, or at Bessemer Field.
Old habits die hard.
Yes, they do. But S.J. Green makes a habit of big plays, and he just caught a 42-yard touchdown pass from Calvillo.
S.J. Green, he makes the difficult catch look easy time and time again.
Well, it was an interesting decision not to concede the safety.
Tim Burke paid for it in a hurry.
2-point game. Will Ford on the return. Makes one tackle and then taken down up across the 30-yard line.
S.J. Green is just going to bend it out, and then he's going down the seam. That's going to leave him covered by the free safety, Koshi Mwamba, on the play. Mwamba is with him. He picks him up, but you'll see a little collision right near the end of this play as the ball is in the air that just throws Mwamba off just enough to create some separation for Green to make that catch.
Talked about Richardson and Green, how physical they are, absorbing that contact, making the play, and Calvillo's offense back in business. Here's Buck Pierce. Chad Simpson in space. And Billy Parker will wrestle him down at the 39-yard line. 6 for Chad Simpson.
Chad Simpson, you mentioned it earlier, Chris, not putting up a lot of yardage on the ground in this ball game. But we've seen him used a couple of times as a quick receiver like that out of the backfield. We expect to see the Bomber backs involved a little bit more in the hot passes from Buck Pierce.
Big Paul Swiston has checked in as a tight end. 4 receivers to this near wide side, and Simpson will go the other way, following Swiston. First down! And a flag comes down at the end of the play. So Chad Simpson gets to the edge. See what the penalty flag's all about. We're going to back them up, says Al Bradbury.
Yeah, possible we're going to get a hold right at the point of attack on this one.
4 yards regained, holding. Winnipeg, number 62. 10-yard penalty, remains second down.
Steve Morley, the right guard, who was pushed by Swiston in camp for the starter's job.
And I always feel for the big guys, trying to block little quick guys in space. Your back is to the ball carrier, you don't know what your leverage is. Steve Morley got caught trying to grab Jeff Tisdale on that one.
So 2nd and 14. Pierce looked downfield and now checks down. And that's Corey Watson trying to stretch up. The Concordia graduate with the catch, but short of the first down. The punt team has to come on for Winnipeg.
The Bombers protecting this tight lead. They're going to need to get a little bit more out of Chad Simpson in that ground game to keep the clock running here.
So Mike Renaud gets set to kick, and Tyron Carrier, who returned one in the opening quarter, is back. Good boot by Renaud. Back at the 22 for Carrier. And he is surrounded, brought down at the 34. The downfield cover by the Bombers much better after that initial Carrier return.
It sure has been. You know, a unique situation here with the 2013 Montreal Alouettes. Huge influx from the University of Calgary Dinos. 5 guys from last year's Calgary Dinos team are currently with the Alouettes. 4 of them suited up for this ball game. DB Jamal Knowles also on the practice roster. Edom and Lambala, both first-round picks. One of the most successful programs in the country for Blake Nill. You're seeing the effect of that here in the CFL.
Well, the Bombers jump where they've drawn. They're trying to sell it. Both Bryant Turner And Kenny Maynard moved. And the officials conferencing.
Josh Burke is in there pleading his case.
Procedure. Montreal, number 58. 5-yard penalty, Maine's first down.
That's the center, Luc Brodeur-Jourdain, who may have bobbed enough to bring the Bombers across the line. And that will raise the noise level here. First and 15. The hitch to London, and he dropped the football. Took a look before he caught the ball. You mentioned the Calgary connection and our thoughts with all the good people in Calgary and southern Alberta. And if you'd like to help to donate to the Red Cross, there is the number or the website to do so. I know you're headed to Calgary tomorrow.
The city where I spent 7 years of my career, lots of good friends there. Wish everyone in the city well.
Second and 15, time for Calvillo underneath to Devine. He kicks it outside, and Noel Devine's got a first down. There is a flag, however, at the 44-yard line. And did Devine benefit from a hold as Terrell Parker was in the area, but may have been tied up. And Al Bradbury has just signaled it's coming back.
Holding, Montreal, number 9. 10-yard penalty, Maine's second.
And that's Delorier.
Eric Delorier was one of the lead blockers. He's out in front on Javon Johnson on this play. See number 2, Johnson, trying to get outside leverage. Delorier had good initial contact. But just a quick grab, turned him around.
Well, second and 25, right in the Bomber fans' wheelhouse. Calvillo steps up and launches. What's Arlen Bruce? And he almost made a one-handed catch, but he got pulled by Javon Johnson. And Johnson's going to argue that the initial contact was by Bruce, and they had quite a battle down the sidelines.
And I think Javon Johnson may have a case here. We're going to take another look. But I think Arlen Bruce's left arm got tied up with Johnson because Bruce was trying to push off.
Pass interference. Winnipeg, number 2, spotted the foul, first down.
Here it comes, a matchup between 2 great veterans in this league. Watch the left arm of Bruce. Looks like Javon Johnson might have hung on a little bit here. You can see it looks like he kind of had him by the wristband or the glove right at the end of the play.
49-yard play. And now that's sweep to Devine. Looking for room and then gets mowed down by Parker.
A good play call at the right time. It looked as though the Bombers were trying to blitz from that front side. Montreal ran right into it. They had the blockers there with the receivers leading out front.
Well, the penalty allows Montreal to convert on second and 25. Second and long again. They might already be in shot weight range. Here they come. And the pass reaches Richardson. And Darrell Richardson reaching for the first down, Gene. See where they mark him.
Richardson and Calvillo have been trying to connect all night. Their timing's just been a little bit off up until this one.
Had to get to the 32, and that spot is right on that mark. And he has either got it or short by a chain link or two.
No, there's no question. Either way, the offense is staying on the field.
Well, you get to help Al Bradbury with the call. And it is by the nose of the football, a first down, courtesy of Jamel Richardson.
Jamel Richardson using the straight arm at the end of this play as he fights for the extra yardage to the outside against Brandon Stewart. Close call on the sideline.
Richardson's second catch of the game. So the Alouette drive continues. First down throw inside, and Suber with the hit on Richardson, who hangs on. Pretty good contact. But the bigger receiver able to absorb the blow.
Good execution. Blitz recognition coming from depth. Number 23, this nickel linebacker. Deja Dunn, you see that's right where Anthony Calvillo is throwing. He vacates that space, Calvillo's throwing right behind him.
Under 5.5 to go. Alouettes threatening to reclaim the lead. And some movement there that finally draws a flag. And Calvillo upset. Wasn't sure if S.J. Green was a step offside and then pulled back, and are they focusing on the center again, which may be why Anthony Calvillo is hot.
This one's likely going to be against the receiver, S.J.
Procedure. Montreal, number 58. Minor penalty remains.
It is Luc Brodeur-Jourdain. That's a point of emphasis this year from the officials. More on the movement of the center, who cannot bob to draw the defensive line offside, and that's twice in the second half. Second and 6, handoff. And they're going to stuff Devine short of the first down.
Deja Dunn, Terrell Parker. First-year starters continue their play. We're going to take a peek at the center. Luc Brodeur-Jourdain, here he comes up to the football.
Is that head bob enough?
The authorities say yes.
So on comes White from 34 yards out for the Montreal lead. And Sean White nails it. And the Alouettes, who once led by 14 and fell behind in the third quarter, have regained the lead. A reminder, Sunday TSN has all-day coverage of the 2013 NHL Draft live from New Jersey. We get you set with a half-hour draft preview show starting at 2:30 Eastern, leading right into the 2013 NHL Draft, brought to you by Coors Light right here on TSN.
We talked a little bit last week about Darnell Nurse, son of Richard Nurse, being eligible for that draft. Richard Nurse was a recipient of one of Anthony Calvillo's many CFL touchdown passes. I want a quick mention as well, Zach Nastasiuk, son of another CFLer, former CFLer Paul Nastasiuk. Zach he's ranked in the top 50 on many boards, wears number 27 in honor of his dad.
Chad Simpson on the ground. Plows close to the 40 and has very close to the number on his back.
Well, as always, the offensive line in Winnipeg has been under the microscope, it seems, the last couple of years. They lost some veteran starters, highly scrutinized group. This is proving time for this group of 5 men to get the job done for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Protect their quarterback. Give them time. There's been far too much pressure on Buck Pierce in the second half of this ballgame.
A year older, 2nd and 5. Here comes the heat. It's dumped off. Simpson the catch. But he is taken down by John Bowman. Kyrus Hebert there. And they drop him right at the line of scrimmage. And it's a quick 2 and out. And the Bombers will have to kick it away with just over 3 minutes left.
Hey, you can't fault the play call here at all by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It's one of those ways to deal with pressure is calling the screen. But the veteran John Bowman, mid-stunt, recognizes exactly what's going on. Hey, we're getting through here a little bit too easily. Something's up. He and Kaye Barron adjust to make the play.
Bowman, the great 8-year veteran. Here's Carrier. Up across the 40 to the 43. Decent field position for Anthony Calvillo to go back to work.
I was lined up for the interception.
Bowman over the course of the last 4 years averaged about 11 sacks a year. Only guy ahead of him on the all-time Montreal Alouette sack list, his good buddy, Anwar Stewart, his former yoga partner.
Says he still keeps in touch. And apparently Anwar's still sitting by the phone just in case somebody wants to try a future Hall of Famer for one more year at defensive end. Devine at running back, and he kicks it outside. And Alex Hall can't catch him. Noel Devine with a feet-first slide in Bomber territory at the 45. Huge first down production on the ground, a 22-yard romp as we hit the 3-minute warning in Winnipeg. No Canada Day games this year to kick off the season, but terrific matchups tomorrow. Ticats and the Argos, that Western Final rematch, Lions and Stampeders at McMahon, and we'll see the Rough Riders and the Eskimos at Commonwealth on Saturday afternoon.
Pretty good rivalry games to kick things off, and if this game is any indication, Montreal-Winnipeg could turn into quite a rivalry as well.
Stephen Lambala's in the backfield, and there's the tape on the right thumb of Anthony Calvillo. You saw him in the first half get a shot on it, and Devine on that sweep again, and nothing doing.
Anthony Calvillo took that, wrapped that hand off the helmet of Kenny Maynor on a follow-through in the third quarter of this ball game. Came back shortly after with that tape on. Doesn't seem to be affecting his handling of the football. Take another look back at that injury. Watch the right hand on the follow-through. Just dig the helmet on the way by.
Well, we've seen the Alouettes in the last two possessions convert on a lot of key second and long plays. And here's another.
Timer, please reset the clock to 2:17. 2:17.
Gonna add 5 seconds to the clock. Right now it would be a 52-yard field goal attempt if Dan Hawkins chose to send Sean White out to try and make it a 4-point cushion, but Anthony Calvillo would like to get a new set of downs if he can. Drops back and now steps up and fires, and Brandon London with a sure-handed grab at the 30-yard line. Another second down conversion by Anthony Calvillo.
Good communication here between quarterback and receiver. Brandon London recognizes his quarterback's in trouble as he rolls his way. London's on a deep route, so he's going to come back towards the sideline. Gives Calvillo a little wave to let him know he's open. Calvillo throws a strike.
Tape on the thumb, not a factor.
20 years in the league, not a lot phases you.
First down at the 30. Hand off to Devine inside. We have not seen Chris Jennings in the second half.
We got clarification on those procedure calls, Chris, against the center, Luc Brodeur-Jourdain.
Winnipeg.
On the head bob. You saw him look back a couple of times to make sure his quarterback was back there when he's in that shotgun formation. He's allowed to bob his head once. That second bob was what got called.
And that's a league official's point of reference or point of emphasis this year. And so everybody getting used to the the new calls. Bombers have stopped the clock. And remember Mark Trestman, the first CFL moment was how long the last 3 minutes is, and now Dan Hawkins going through it for the first time. Calvillo looking for Green, and he can't bring that one in inside the 5. He had that big, great game-breaking catch for a touchdown earlier in this fourth quarter.
Anthony Calvillo, always a gunslinger. He took that deep shot to S.J. Green for the big play. He might have had an easier play underneath to his running back, Noel Devine, who had slipped out of the backfield on the play. Devine's just going to check, release out to the right. Coverage drops off him. You give a guy like that a little bit of space. But Calvillo knows, put it on the money. Usually that's a catch that S.J. Green is actually going to make.
John White from 36 yards out. And he nails that, and a big field goal to give the Alouettes a 4-point lead. So with 1:41 on the clock, Tim Burke's Bombers need a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to call a 4-point lead breathing room, but certainly it puts the pressure on this Winnipeg Blue Bomber offense to get something going, which they haven't been able to do since the first couple possessions of this second half.
Dan Hawkins' team was outscored 19-1 in the third quarter, but have blanked the Bombers 13-0 so far in the fourth quarter. But he doesn't look very comfortable on the sidelines yet. Four-man rush. Pierce stands in, and a pass incomplete as Watson unable to pull it in.
Crossing routes, Corey Watson couldn't handle the velocity. It was probably coming that hard because it was intended for Terrence Edwards, who was crossing at the deeper level behind him. There you see 1-2 in the same area. It was that deep man Edwards that Pierce appeared to be looking for.
2nd and 10. Here's time again, underneath it goes. Catch made by Watson, collared by a Bear. And it's going to be 3rd and a couple for the Bombers. Need to get beyond the 45.
Shea Emery, middle linebacker, got a big lick on Watson on the crossing route. There you see how physical a player Corey Watson is to shrug that one off and make the play.
So 3rd and 2 to stay in the game, and the pass incomplete. Edwards wants a call. There are no flags. And it's a turnover on downs. 4th turnover of the game, and the Bombers will argue the non-call.
Here's the matchup, Gerald Brown, Terrence Edwards.
And that's got to be called.
Yeah, Brown wrapped up his arms before the ball got there.
Bombers had a case. So now the Alouettes try and take a little more time off the clock. And here's Lambala, his first carry. Well, that's gutsy to put the ball with the lead in the hands of a rookie getting his first CFL carry.
Well, Stephen Lambala, that second first-round pick from the Calgary Dinos, 5th overall. Calgary native from St. Francis High School.
Rolly's kid brother.
That's it.
And good for him, getting his first touch of the Canadian Football League. Remember, the Bombers used their timeout. Clock running here. 2nd and 7. Devine. And he'll get nailed behind the line of scrimmage. And now Dan Hawkins with 55 seconds to go. Does he send out the field goal team, or does Sean White punt into the corner?
I'd opt for the punt.
And the punt team does come on.
Yeah, I mean, you got to recognize it's a long field goal, and Javon Johnson's a guy with a history of running those back. It's a risky play to go for the field goal. The risk far greater than the reward, given the difference it would make.
They're going to drain the 20-second clock here. And then Hawkins will either take the penalty or take the timeout right at the 1 second mark, and he does.
Timeout, Montreal.
There's Dan Hawkins on the sidelines just moments ago. Seems to like the pressure cooker a little bit. I suspect there may be a little joking around there about what they might have been warned about the final 3 minutes in the CFL.
So the clock stopped with 34 seconds. And the Bombers will get the football back for 2 or 3 plays to get their Hail Mary situation, unless Javon Johnson can set things up with a big return.
Well, a lot of pressure on Sean White here to get the job done as well, to get him pinned deep.
And he nailed one earlier. Remember the one down inside the 2?
It's not what they
wanted.
wanted.
The single, that's not what he wanted this time. But that 51-yarder into the corner kick-started the comeback for the Alouettes earlier in this game.
It sure did. Gave them a huge
down by
field
9
position
at the
advantage.
time.
Led to Winnipeg punting out of the end zone instead of taking a safety. Montreal scored on the very next play.
Sure, the Bombers will concede that single and take the field possession instead of the penalty for no yards. They get the ball at the 35.
No yards, Montreal. That penalty is declined. Single point scored. First down.
So it's a 5-point lead now, 38-33 for the Alouettes. And Buck Pierce has just under a half minute to save the day for the Bombers. And he's going to air it out, looking for Chris Matthews, and the ball falls incomplete. Tisdale there. Gerald Brown shaken up as Matthews ran through him. And now 18 seconds remaining.
Trying to take advantage of the height of Chris Matthews to come up with a big play. Matthews looked like he just signaled to the sidelines that he wants the same thing again. A chance to go up and get that football.
Matthews will line up to the far side of the field. Clarence Denmark on the near side. 2nd and 10. And Pierce flush from the pocket. Rolling up, Kowali in pursuit, and that pass is intercepted. And Byron Parker hits the deck. And the Montreal Alouettes are going to crash this Investors Group Field party tonight. And Dan Hawkins will win his first game as a CFL head coach.
Ultimately, the turnover is the undoing of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in this ball game.
Woo!
Buck Pierce takes another shot from Eichiro Kowali. Byron Parker, always the opportunist, with career interception number 30.
Anthony Calvillo puts the knee down, and this game is in the books. Dan Hawkins gets the Gatorade shower and a celebration as his team scores 13 unanswered. 14 unanswered in the fourth quarter for a 38-33 win in the CFL opener for 2013. So long from Investors Group Field. Now Dan O'Teal and Natasha Staniszewski.